Hello, welcome to 2020. I'm Griff and Hoffmann, and this is BBR Radio. With me is Geoff Brewer.
What's up?
And James Sherer.
Howdy.
We're going to talk about some video games and video game related stuff.
What's your gaming resolution?
Play more games.
My New Year's gaming resolution is to get sick abs.
Whoa. Not sick apps.
Sick ass abs.
I'm just going to get a sick ass.
It's going to wear gamer glasses in all contexts.
I'm going to bring back
blue light.
colored contacts.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want my Philips Hue lights to really reflect my gaming mood at the time, so I feel like I'm just going to dive straight into that Philips Hue app and really like explore the space and like get some feels that are commensurate with the games that I am playing.
Do you have Philips Hue lights? Because let me tell you something. I do have them. It's a point of shame, but I also fucking love them. They're so good.
Hey, guess what? Samesies.
I don't have the color ones though. I just have the white ones.
What
I have
are
the color
Philips
ones.
Hue lights? Are they the ones you can change color, like with an app?
Well,
Yes.
or
Or
you
your
can
voice.
not change color.
So you're paying a lot more for a regular light bulb functionality?
No, but listen, I can go, hey Google, and then they'll turn on.
Uh-huh.
You don't even know how cool that is, man.
Yeah, I do. I have that, but I have it on like sockets and shit. Like,
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's the same thing.
You telling me you have like a switch on the wall or something you can
The wall
activate?
switch, we were looking into maybe doing one on the wall, but no, we've got like lamps and things and TVs and appliances and whatnot set up through the sockets, like the smart home
Yeah, but
sockets.
Can you talk to your Google Home and make it do them?
Uh-huh.
All right.
Well, I don't have a Google Home, but I've got the Echo Dot thing.
Well, if you buy Philips
So,
Hue lights,
speaking of which, I
you're
need
going to
to
have to
turn this
buy
guy
a
off.
Philips Hue bridge.
It's true. You cannot use them on their own. You have to spend additional money for a bridge.
Really?
Yes.
Yep. That for some reason has to be hardwired
Yes.
into your router.
Yes.
Whoa.
Correct.
Why?
You know those 4 things in the back of your router that every single device you own is competing for? Give one of them up.
Yep. Needs to be Philips Hue now.
Do you have a Google Wi-Fi? You cannot use a Philips bridge
Really?
because it
That's
doesn't have
amazing.
any ports on the back.
Oh my god.
Are they still like $70 a light bulb?
No. It's,
No.
I think I got them on Black Friday for like
Okay.
4 bulbs for like, I don't know, 30 or 40 bucks.
Oh, that's way reasonable then. Okay, I remember when they first came out and you were like about $100 pop, and I was like, okay, novelty, you're not going to win this time.
Well, the color bulbs, I think, are like an insane amount of money.
Oh, okay.
I like completely redid my like living room space, and I got like a new TV, a new sound system, and along with it, I got these ones that I've seen in a lot of like YouTube weirdos like rooms, and they were very reasonable. They're like elongated colored ones, and there's 2 of them, and they were like $20 or $30 on Black Friday or something. So I
Not too
grabbed
bad.
those, and then I got them home and I set them up, and I was like, cool, I'm like a cool YouTuber now. And then it was like, hey, you can't use these because you don't have a Philips Hue bridge, idiot. And I was like, ah.
Do
Okay.
you have a DX Racer chair?
I have a DX Racer couch. It's several DX Racer chairs stitched together.
Is the DX Racer couch just a giant couch on a swivel with 4 wheels underneath it?
Yeah, and really, really uncomfortable lumbar support pillows that are just jutting out everywhere.
The DX Racer couch only seats 1 because gaming is a solo activity.
Not to be enjoyed with others by any means. Oh, man. But yeah, now that I have it all working, it's freaking awesome. And I've never had... So I got an OLED, so that's cool. And then I've never had like a real sound system before, so now I have like a sound system with like a receiver. And I'm like
Ooh.
extremely impressed by it, and I'm kind of like shocked that I've like been missing out this whole time. You guys both have receivers, right? I know, Geoff, you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have the hilarious surround sound setup that's like not big. It's like the speakers are right in your ear.
Yeah, mine's the same situation as Geoff.
But it is a big difference. Like, especially if you know, even with games that are like, I'll put like a Switch game in, and it'll, it's like DQ11. It looks like pixelated and whatever, but the sound just is like such a huge part of it, and I never really realized it. And especially in maybe we should just get into it. I don't know, Griff, you tell me, but like in Dragon Quest XI's that the music is amazing. And
you sold me. I'll play it.
It's the first time that the 11 has been released in this country with the orchestral versions of the music. And before, for reasons I do not understand, maybe Geoff knows, it's been all like MIDI? I don't know.
Is that true, Geoff? Yep, it's so the war crime denying composer can sell concert tickets.
Okay.
That's my understanding of why it was
2020
MIDI up until now.
Well, now I have weird feelings that I don't want.
Is Dragon Quest XI the one where it's like you can play it in the old school mode or the standard?
Yeah, don't play it in the old school mode.
Okay. No,
it's real. Did you do the side quest in the old school mode?
I did one of the side quests in the old school mode, which was enough to show me that I should not be playing this game in the old school mode.
That is exactly what happened to me. I was like, I feel the urge to do this for completionist's sake, but I hate it so much.
Yeah. It's like a cool thing. You read it on the back of the box and you're like, hey, that's pretty awesome. But then in practice, I mean, the game itself is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And switching it to 2D mode, you're like, no. It's not that it's half-baked. It's just not nearly as fully featured as the main game. And half of the allure of the game is like the characterizations and the excellent voice acting. Geoff, in your version, you didn't have the orchestral music, but you did have the voice acting, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, good. Because the voice acting, while weird and slow in that Japanese way that, like, you know how Dark Souls voice acting is, like, very slow? This is as slow, but not as echoey, but still super stilted. But
it's stilted, but it's more like storybook. It's less
I think
like
it works.
Ethereal and weird.
I think it definitely works. It definitely draws you in. But at the same time, if you have, like, a fiancé who will occasionally walk past the TV and hear what they're saying, she will just stop and just be, like, very confused about the tone in which the voice acting is being delivered. But
why are you playing it on a television when you could be playing it handheld and enjoying those weird, sexy costumes all by yourself?
I'm doing both, actually. But yes, it is very embarrassing. I did put Jade in the bunny costume because it is so good for her skill set, and it is extremely embarrassing.
It's good, all right.
So embarrassing. But I have loved this game. I'll tell you why. Okay, Griffin, my job. I know I'm not going to succeed, but my stated goal for this little segment is to convince
your 2020
Griffin,
resolution is to.
I'm going to join in the 2020 resolution. Go ahead,
yes.
Griff.
Nope.
Well, I want to convince Griff to play this game, and the first thing I'm going to say to that end is that this game is amazing for, like, busy, working 30-somethings who miss the feeling of playing JRPGs, but in reality do not have the time, energy, or, like, stamina for a 60-hour RPG. And
so you tell me it's about 10 hours and I don't have to grind?
No.
You don't have to grind.
You don't have to grind. That's the one
that
thing,
is
and
a fallacy.
especially with DQ11S.
Do I have to even engage in the battle system?
No.
Yes.
No, you don't.
You have to do the battle system.
Well, you have to do the battle systems, but it will fight for you if you want.
That's true. It will.
Which I've been doing. At first, I was like, why would anyone do the auto battling thing? And oh my god, guys, just you get the satisfaction of the grinding, but you're not actually grinding, and you're not grinding at all because you don't need to level up because the game's fairly easy. But you get the satisfaction of leveling and getting new skills and stuff, but you're not doing jack shit. You're just sitting back. You kick your feet up. You're like, oh yeah, that's a cool spell. I'll remember that person has that spell. And it's like a really smart auto battler. You can just put it on, just go for it. Or you can go in and you can say, like, okay, I want you to focus on healing and I want you to do offensive stuff without using MP. Or you can just say, whatever. No, I'm just not going to think about it too much, but it's so good. And the Dragon Quest XI's, the version on Switch, the one that I'm playing, has increased battle speed and, like, lots of new options in terms of movement. You can call your horse at any time, so you can fast travel wherever. It's like it's so the 32-year-olds like JRPG, and it's really captivated me. And I think because of all those creature comforts, it's allowing me to experience a JRPG story and feel the way that I remember feeling when I used to play these games 20 years ago, or at least get me close to that. And I'm really loving it. And I think because it has all those creature comforts, I can get into the story. The story in this game is like surprisingly touching a lot of the time and very affecting. And the environments you get to explore are really cool. I just think it's a really cool, it's just a really fun game. And I've never really experienced a JRPG with the, auto battler and all these creature comforts before. And it's just kind of eye-opening. Like, I hope that more of them do this in the future.
And I would say that for me, like, Dragon Quest has always been a series that I've wanted to get into, but has felt especially archaic, even compared to the stuff we grew up with, like the RPGs that we all know and love, like, Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, et al., which in some ways, like, have elements that maybe feel a little bit, like, slow now. But Dragon Quest has always been that one where it's like, this is interesting, but it's like, when you play the 2D mode, you feel like you're playing Dragon Quest of yore, like, for worse. And as you play the 3D mode, it's like, as Jamie said, all these things are there to just make it flow, to make it feel good. And, like, you just get to the things that I think elevate Dragon Quest, like the kind of vignette-esque storytelling.
Yes.
Where, like, you go to a town and each town tells a little story. And the overarching plot is actually pretty cool. There's a cool thing that happens pretty soon, which Jamie hasn't gotten to yet, which really, I was impressed with what they did, and I'm pretty excited to get back to that point in 11S, because that's about when I dropped off on the PS4 version.
It's Baby Yoda. He's in there.
Yeah. What's that show called that he's in? Ray Donovan. No, that's not him. That's Liam Schreiber. I mix those two up all the time.
What is happening?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Anyway, yeah, it's real good. And the world is just like, it's a really good size, and I don't know. It's like I had all these sensations of like it slowly opens up, and it just opens and opens and opens, and then like you're like, oh, this isn't as big as I thought, but then it's like, actually, like, the stuff they have, they're doing so much shit with. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about, but it's a really charming, well detailed, fun little game.
It knows, and it's one of those games that, like, knows exactly what it is. It's not overreaching. It's not trying to break the mold. I feel like the formula is. So I've played a lot of Dragon Quest games. I played 8 on the PS2. I played the one that came out on DS, and I never got into them. And I liked them. I never finished them. I'm definitely going to finish this when I'm 30 hours in, and I'm thinking about it now. Like, I want to go back and play it. And I think the reason is because of the central formula is, like, the same. Like, I remember with those older games just feeling bored. Yeah. Like, in DQ8, like, this is nice, but I'm bored. And in this one, it's kind of taking that same formula, but it's turning all the creature comforts, turn the boredom into, like, this kind of nice flow state. And it's just, you're just chilling with your friends. Yeah. And you're just kind of like kicking back. And especially if, like, I've been I've been working in the emergency room. It's been very stressful. Like, especially for a time like that in your life, it's so nice. Yeah. Actually, so that's
the systems are really polished to, like, a mirror sheen. Like, as Jamie said, the things that it once felt kind of boring or, like, lacking in pep, just all are really well gelled together with all the, like, chaff taken out. It's just all the hits, like, one after another.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny that you're saying that, and you haven't even played the S version, which
I played the S version. I have the S version.
Oh, I thought you played the one on PS4.
Well, I played them both. And there are some, the S version is, like, the version to get. I think the PS4 version is still great, but the music is definitely the most noteworthy difference between them. But there are a couple other tweaks. Like you said, you can ride your horse all the time. The battle speed tweaks are kind of nice, and you can use your forge everywhere. I just feel like they've done so much in that game to just take the best parts of Dragon Quest and bring them to the front and get rid of all the other boring shit.
Yeah. Definitely.
Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age.
Definitive Edition.
Came out in 2017.
No, Dragon Quest XI came out in 2017.
Okay, so there's been basically you're saying that there's been a lot of iteration on this to make it more player friendly, or was it developed like that from the start?
So Dragon Quest XI has gone through. So okay, there was the PS4 and 3DS versions, which came out 2016, let's say, in Japan. Then when it came stateside, it was only PS4, and they added voices and a bunch of creature comforts. Like they added a run button, which wasn't present in the original game. And then this version, so they've been iterating, and this version, which is like the final version, has some additional content, but more notably has the first orchestral soundtrack, voice acting across both the Japanese and US versions, and a couple other tweaks just to kind of make it as pleasant as possible to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think one last thing I wanted to say about it before we move on is that the vignette storytelling style where each town or city tells a self-contained story that feeds into the main plot but is also its own little thing is perfect for encouraging you to play on a system like the Switch, where you can easily, once you get into the flow of the game and once you get to the point in the game where that's like kind of the state of play, like it sends you to a town, you do the thing in that town, you fight the boss, and then you move on. You can easily tackle a town in a few hours. So it's like a great, you get your Switch, you plunk down on the couch, and you could get through one of these towns in like that amount of time, and it's a great feeling. You feel like it's not one of those JRPGs where you feel like you spent hours and you haven't progressed at all. You've experienced an entire story and you've explored an entire city, and then you're done and you're moving on. It's really cool.
Although I will say, once you hit, so the game is kind of loosely divided into acts, like a play. Once you hit the second act of the game, there's a thing that happens, which I think is going to bring back all those vignettes in novel ways, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Whoa.
So if you're a person who doesn't love the idea of each town in an RPG being a self-contained story and feeling like it fits a formula, then know that there is some overarching stuff going on that adds new layers to each one.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So Griff, how did we do?
One last question.
Budge the needle at all?
One question before I give my answer. If I play this game, will I have a better understanding and appreciation of the current and future cast of Smash Brothers?
Well, I mean, the Dragon Quest heroes in it, so I guess.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Yeah. No, you guys sold me on it, and I'll play it.
Yeah.
Yay.
I am torn because, like I mentioned off air, I got FE or no, what is it? Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE Sharp Plus.
FE Encore.
Yeah, for Switch. So that'll be there, but from everything I understand, that game is the opposite of what you've described, where it has absolute disrespect for your time. So, yeah, that may just be a check the box on that one and maybe invest more time into this Dragon Quest XI. Because from everything that you're saying, I've had that itch. I want an RPG to kind of snuggle up with. And Pokemon's not doing it for me, but Geoff, you could probably talk more about that. I was going to say, I was kind of looking for that same comfort in Judgment, and there was it was kind of there, kind of not there.
Tell me about Judgment, because that's a game that I feel like just kind of sailed under the radar. I was excited about it. I've wanted to like Yakuza. I've not really given it the time of day. And then Judgment, I know, is a similar type of experience. So what's that like?
The darts are really, really good. I played a lot of darts minigames in that game. I don't know what it is about the darts minigame, but I am loving it. Man, I got 2 heavy loads or whatever, full loads. I don't know what it is.
Oh, you got 2 heavy loads, all right.
When you get 2 or 3 triples, there's a term for it. I don't know, but yeah, I was killing it in darts. If you have played a Yakuza game before, you know there's kind of a formula to walking around Kamurocho, and advancing the story and just getting into random fights. This is similar. You're not playing as Kazuma Kiryu. You're playing as a new guy who is mostly forgettable. he is like a disgraced attorney because he got a murderer off. The premise is like, oh, the Japanese legal system is so swung in the prosecution side that it's almost, the defense almost never wins a case, and this guy got a guy off, and then he ended up murdering again. So now he's not an attorney anymore. He's just doing the beat by beat detective work as like a freelance guy. So you're just kind of doing odd jobs here and there, and trying to like aid in what looks to be a serial killer happening in Kamurocho. And Kamurocho is the fake. I don't think it's modeled after Shibuya. It's not, because it'd be the crosswalk. It's I don't even know where it would be in real Japan. I know that there is a correlation. I just don't know what it is, but. It's been featured, in all the previous Yakuza games. So, like, you could go to Stardust Bar or all these already kind of iconic locations from the previous games, and they're all there. You can go to batting cages and whatever. But I don't know. It's entertaining enough to keep me going along with it. There's some weird new mechanics, like there's some chase scenes where you're having to hit some QTE stuff and track down people, or take photographs of people, and it's kind of exploring the space of what it's like in Kamurocho to not be Kiryu, and throw some new mechanics in there. But a lot like the previous Yakuza games, you really have to be patient, and you really have to enjoy just being in that world. Mm. So I don't think that if you have not played a Yakuza game, if you pick up Judgment, it would then turn you around or give you that that Yakuza feeling. I would really recommend going back to one of the Kiwamis or Zero and starting there.
I've heard Zero is the one you really want to. If you're just going to play one, you should play Zero.
What would make those better for someone like that?
I think it's because the story of those games is more interesting. They are longer games, but the Kazuma Kiryu story is a fun one. It's big. You have a rival. There is a kind of a mystery that's nonsense. But yeah, playing as this larger than life Kiryu character is more enjoyable than playing this guy whose name I forgot.
So I guess that the fact, because I know he's some famous actor, but I guess the fact that, I guess he's not bringing it. Are you playing in Japanese or are you playing in English?
I was playing in, I don't remember actually. I think
does it even have an English vocal track?
I don't know. I remember reading a lot, so it was probably Japanese.
I learned that, by the way, Kamurocho is modeled after Kabukicho, which is the entertainment and red light district of Tokyo.
Perfect.
Mm. Yeah. It's a shame that it's not grabbing me more, because I, like Geoff, was very intrigued by it, and I thought it looked great, and I love, in all of those games, I just love that fantastic disconnect between the hyper-realistic environments, and then all of a sudden you're just throwing a bike at someone and it explodes, and it's why is this okay? But
I've watched
it's a shame.
I've watched many videos of characters from Yakuza getting really upset about someone dying, or just the horror of being falsely accused of hurting someone, and then just cuts to them using human shields in gunfights and all kinds of hilarious things, just the complete tonal dissonance of the actual moment-to-moment gameplay versus the story beats seems really entertaining to me.
Yes. This game doesn't do anything different. Yeah. That's all I have to say about Judgment. It's not holding me.
That's too bad.
That's too bad.
Yep.
I'm curious also about so you said that Pokemon didn't really scratch the itch for you, Griffin. Did you end up beating it?
I am the Pokemon Champion League guy.
You didn't fight Swordbird and Shieldbert?
No. The dogs? No.
No. Did you not? Oh, there's a post-game, and it's really bizarre.
Nope.
Okay, well, spoilers, I guess. There's a post-game featuring Galarian royalty, and they're just a guy with a sword haircut and a shield haircut. They're really good.
I don't understand.
It's a man whose
So, like
hair...
I said, not grabbing me.
What's that?
Not grabbing me.
No. It's not worth your time. But you should look these people up, because literally the guy has hair that just points straight up like a sword, and the other guy has just a poofy shield hair. It's very funny.
Huh.
Yeah.
Jeff, what do you think of it, and what do you think of all this DLC that's coming out?
That's actually something we should talk about. I'm super excited about the DLC. I hope that there are lots of Galarian forms in it, because otherwise I don't really care about collecting all the old guys, but I think it's great. I love the DLC. Far better than a third version, personally, and I'm happy to drop $30 for more of that game.
So I think is it $32 for both of them, or is it $32 a pop?
So at first I thought it was $30 a pop, which was felt a bit like highway robbery, but no, it's $30 for the full pass.
Okay, so that's what I was hoping for.
And they appear to both be about their wild areas, basically, a little larger than the wild area in the base game. I think that's all you get. But I'm fine with that. The wild area is kind of probably the most interesting part of Pokemon Sword and Shield in terms of just geography and exploring. But yeah, I mean, I think they're good games. I mean, I think have we talked on the podcast about Pokemon Sword and Shield before?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're good. In a lot of ways, they are the most streamlined Pokemon games. They're far too easy. They're far too autopilot-y. You really have to work hard to generate any kind of challenge and tension in the gameplay, which is, I think, a problem.
Yeah, I know, Jeff, you had said you just chose to not Dynamax to give yourself that.
Yep,
edge.
I wouldn't Dynamax in any gym battles. I rotated my teams a lot because your Pokemon overlevel like crazy. I think that the thing about Pokemon is the formula itself isn't what's broken. I don't think that the act of facing gym leaders, going to different towns and fighting bosses, is the problem. I think the problem is more that there's no conflict. Everything is just so... as I said, it's so critical pathy. They're so worried about wasting their effort that, literally playing the game, you see every single thing the game has to offer just in the course of the main story. There's no, feeling that there's, a world to explore just outside of view. It's not like you can go off on some random route which has no purpose other than just to house a few cool Pokemon. Everything is something you will see while you're playing the game.
That makes sense.
And I also felt there's no conflict in terms of this, the storytelling. I played a decent chunk of that game. I bounced off of it, as I always do with all the Pokemon games. But literally, the story, as far as I could tell, is that there's this one guy who's kind of a jerk. That's literally the.
You talking about the guy with white hair?
Yeah.
Bede? Yeah.
Is that the story?
Yep.
I mean, he gets a resolution, which is not. No, there's a big bad at the very end, which is super dumb.
Not the haircut boys?
No, I'm talking about the pre-champion big bad.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
You forgot because it doesn't matter.
Nope, sure doesn't.
So yeah, the storytelling is pretty low stakes. I think that it's compelling enough on its own to become the champion. I think that in and of itself can be a good story, but I think that those gym battles need to feel a little bit more intense than they actually are. Because you can literally just smoke them with one Pokemon clicking the same move over and over again.
Yep.
But again,
yeah.
Yeah. I made it a little harder for myself, so the gym battles had a little bit more tension for me, so it was more fun. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest weakness of Pokemon is probably that, they are on a pretty strict timetable. They have to pump these things out pretty regularly. They, have a lot of Pokemon they need to put in the game. They have a lot of shit they want to put in there and get a lot of fans to appease. And they don't invest enough energy into making the world feel dynamic, making the world feel like there's more out there for you. And there's stuff to be encountered and discovered. I got really hooked on, for whatever reason, completing my Pokedex and also shiny hunting, which is, don't do that. It's really bad.
Why is it really bad?
It's really bad because the base chances of encountering a shiny Pokemon So just people don't know, shiny Pokemon are basically like palette swaps of existing Pokemon. They're just like different colored versions of them. They're exceedingly rare. The chances of finding one without modifiers are 1 in 4,000. The chances of finding them with modifiers are a lot better, but still pretty low, like 1 in 500. And for some reason, when the DLC was announced, they gave out like a Galarian Slowpoke, and I was like, I'm gonna get a shiny of that. And I've just been breeding egg after egg after egg for no good reason. It's really bad. I'm basically
the shiny themselves. They don't do anything different. They're just visually different, right?
Yep, they just sparkle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Literally, it's like playing Cookie Clicker, except less fun. And I have bred, I think, hundreds of Slowpokes at this point. But I mean, that's the thing.
I love how you're focusing specifically on Slowpoke.
Well, the thing is, you can't focus on multiples at the same time. I mean, so you could, but the way that you hunt for shiny Pokemon, it kind of encourages you to focus on one. I already got one relatively quickly, and I think I was lulled into a false sense of security by how quickly I got one. And now I'm just stuck, and I have the sunk cost fallacy going on, and I just can't
stop. They gave you that first taste.
They gave me that first taste. That's how it works, man. But yeah,
that first shiny's free, baby.
But I'm excited about the new DLC. I think it's like the most interesting thing Sword and Shield have done, I think.
Are you playing competitively? Are you online matching and stuff like that?
No, because even though it's easier than it's ever been, it's still tedious. I don't want to deal with that shit. And also, like, if you really want to play competitively, there's literally like an online battle simulator that requires 0 effort. So if I really wanted to, I could go on Pokemon Showdown, which is unofficial, but just lets you play with a pre-baked team. And you don't have to do any of the work to raise perfect Pokemon. Because that still sucks.
Uh-huh. There's still the insane barrier of you have to know secret values and mysterious stuff. Like
now you can like basically pay to max them out. Like you can use these things called bottle caps to just make them go to maximum. So it's like it's easier than it's ever been, but it's still a lot of work.
But you still have to know what you're doing on that level, right?
Yeah,
like you have to target the certain values.
You still have to know what you're doing, but that's not the end of the world because like having to know stuff is not really the problem with making competitive Pokemon. It's just having to like breed them and like get the egg moves and like all that stuff. Get the effort values, which takes time. It's just like it's just pointless. Like I would not want to waste days of my life working on building a good team.
Mm-hmm.
So
just a shiny one.
There's a shiny one, yeah. But that's the thing.
I think one of the things that I was really bummed out about by this game was in the lead up to it, there was a lot of focus and concept art on saying, like, we're going to explore a world where Pokemon live in it, and they're kind of like a part of it in a functional way. So it was getting more into that, like, Flintstones stuff, where it's like, oh, there's a Blastoise that is a fire truck, or, you know, this Electabug is generating power for this thing. So, and then they just completely whiffed on that, and it's like, yeah, they're in the wild, you can see them kind of around, but they're not integrating with the world in a way that it's like, this makes sense, there's a partnership. Like
I remember that like promotional material, and I think literally that material was just to advertise that they had Poke Jobs, which are completely hidden. Like you don't ever have to encounter them if you don't want to.
I guess I didn't. What is a Poke Job?
You know how when you go into the Pokemon Center, you can talk to the little Rotom to the left, and he'll let you get into your Pokemon boxes? So if you go down and you click Poke Jobs...
Oh, yeah, sure.
You can literally just send your idle Pokemon. That's like straight up cookie clicker. You can send your idle Pokemon out on jobs, which take a certain amount of time, and then they just come back with rewards. It is like 0 user input.
Gotcha.
But they're part of the world. They're heating up things. They're planting seeds.
Oh, yeah, right. But isn't there also like the opposite of that, where it's like MMORPG, deliver 5 Gortusk livers that you subscribe to too?
Nope, that's not in this game.
Catch 10 Beedrills or whatever?
No, that's not in this game. I think that was in Sun and Moon, but I never engaged with it.
Huh, I swear I did those.
Nah.
It would be like fulfill a number of actions.
I don't think so. There were like a couple of like, you know, bring me this thing, but just like normal RPG side quests. Nothing that felt particularly MMO-y.
Not from the Rotom?
Nope. No, he didn't have that.
I'm going to go check on that because I remember doing that.
Maybe it exists. I don't know. I mean, it's possible. There's a lot of there's the stuff that's like kind of just off the beaten path is like both strangely developed and strangely tedious and horribly boring. I will say that Pokemon camping is fun like at least 1 or 2 times though. I was very charmed by that Zigzagoon pouncing on my feather duster.
Yes.
Oh, I did that. I liked that.
Making curry is great, except it's fucking bizarre because you don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think it's actually making curry. I think it's terrible. Like I hate every
The
part
fact
of
that
it.
it's curry, that's really all that I love.
I think it's awful. The pictures of the curry are kind of nice, but everything else about it I hate.
Well, when you take that bite and the Pokemon bites with you, that is like a wonderful little gift.
My problem
Yeah,
is
I like how he's invested.
My problem is I have the electric poison lizard at the front of my party, and you know how when he attacks and stuff, he just strokes his chest?
Yep.
Every time he eats the curry, he just strokes his chest, and I don't feel good
Such a
about
perv.
it.
Such a perv.
He does look like a furry. There are a lot of furry Pokemon, that's all I'm saying. This generation really leaned into the furries.
A lot of humanoid-looking things.
Yeah. And they have the My Little Pony. But yeah. I am excited about the DLC, and I think Sword and Shield are okay.
I wanted to ask, do you have your ear to the ground in terms of, like, do people like these games now? Is Dexit still a thing, or is the DLC reversing some of that? Like, are there still really mad fanboys?
People are still really mad. The person who's in charge of Pokemon right now, Junichi Masuda, on his birthday, people were harassing him, and he literally wrote back to a fan. He was like, please leave me alone. It's my birthday. And people are really mad about the DLC. Some people don't care. Some people are really excited, but a lot of people are like, how dare you add old Pokemon back in after you said you couldn't do it? So yeah, it's still a thing. But anyway, that's all I gotta say about Pokemon.
All right.
I'm glad that you're liking it.
Yeah, I mean, I always like Pokemon, and this is like the one game where I actually bothered to complete the Pokédex. It's easier than it has ever been. Plus, I wanted that shiny charm, which slightly increases your odds of catching a shiny Pokemon.
Why is it easier than ever? Just because of the fewer amount of Pokemon?
The fewer Pokemon is one thing. The wild area makes it a lot easier. Also, like the raids. So the online is really jank, but I've kind of figured out how to bend it to my will. So if you're like doing something online, like if you're doing like a surprise trade, which is like basically random anonymous trading, then like you can get access to lots of different raids. I don't know. There's ways to just kind of game the broken ass online system, and you can get Pokemon that aren't in your game pretty easily through that. Cause like if someone broadcasts like a raid in their game, then you can access it even if it's not your Pokemon.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you have been playing the raids with other human beings?
Yep. Also, I guess there's some kind of... Well, you don't talk to them or anything. They just play the game. Most of them are not too dumb.
So when you play those, right, like only one person can Dynamax?
Yeah, so the Dynamaxing...
How does that work out with, like,
it passes
no
around.
vocalization? Oh, yeah.
So it passes around. A lot of times the Pokemon in front just Dynamaxes, even if it's like a dummy who doesn't know what they're doing. The way that the raids work and like the Pokemon that are good for them, there's some Pokemon that you don't need to bother Dynamaxing, so sometimes you'll get a chance to do it even if you're farther down the line, because people will bring the really OP stuff that doesn't need to Dynamax. I don't know. The most annoying thing about it is that you can kill the guy and sometimes you don't catch him. Yeah. So like literally people found some exploit in order to get shinies to show up more easily in raids. And I had a shiny Kingler in a raid, but I'd already used my Master Ball to catch another shiny, so I tried to catch it and it got away immediately. And I was very upset.
Oh, you're going to use the Master Ball on just a chump?
Yeah. I don't care. I used it on a shiny Grimmsnarl.
Ugh.
Anyway. Yeah, it's Pokemon. It's fine. People are too angry. I mean, it did better than any Pokemon, I think, before it, so...
That's good.
The series is fine.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here. It looks like everybody else has played some last year's stuff too. Jamie, I want to get your thoughts on Disco Elysium.
I am still really early. I am really enjoying it. I I love how it kind of onboards you onto having various parts of your brain be different characters that are kind of with you at all times. I think it does that in a really organic and interesting way, and I still don't fully understand it, but I think that the way the intro to the game and like the way the game kind of starts laying out, you know, the pace and what you're expected to do, I think it works really well, and it's captivating. It's captivating enough. I just feel like I'm still way too early to even really know like what the core of the story is. But when it started to click a little more for me was when I started doing very, very simple things, and they felt hugely rewarding. Like just getting a full set of clothing on your guy, or finding a clipboard and figuring out how to open it. Or finding out a little hint about like where you lived or who you were, because, you know, like all the best JRPGs, the main conceit is that you have amnesia, and which is done to, I think, better effect in this game than probably in any JRPG, because it allows you to actually act in the way that an amnesiac would, which is, I love whenever you have dialogue options and you can either respond rationally, or you can just say something that someone who actually has this kind of global amnesia would say. So, like, you can be talking about a car, and then you'll have a couple of options like, where's the car parked? Or, you know, how do we get to the car? And then the bottom option will be like, what's a car? And I like I like that about the game, and you can just say that, and the characters around you respond in kind of these interesting ways. And I like the...
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. I was going to say, isn't part of the amnesia, like, as a device, is so you can actually create a character? Like, you can kind of reverse engineer your character, or like recursively create your character. So, like, what your character's backstory and personality is are not set. Like, you kind of get to choose in a way that feels more role play than any other CRPG I've ever engaged with, I feel like.
Well, I think just story wise, large swaths of what the character did before you kind of took over are set, but where you go from here is kind of your prerogative. Mm-hmm. Like you clearly were, prior to becoming an amnesiac, you clearly were an alcoholic, corrupt cop, but now this kind of catastrophic thing has happened in your brain, and now the player has the reins. And I agree with you that you get to kind of roll the character the way you want, but it's always in the context of you were this corrupt jerk. So if you're continuing to be a corrupt jerk, that's interesting. But if you were this corrupt jerk and all of a sudden now you're acting completely differently, that's also interesting. Mm-hmm. And it kind of messes around with the NPC's expectations of what you're going to do, because most of the NPCs, at least in the early game that you encounter, you have been interacting with for a couple of days prior to losing your memory, and so they expect you to act a certain way, basically to be a corrupt cop. But when you go up to them and you say, "What's a car?" they're like, and they're trying to gauge whether or not this is just a way that you're continuing to F with them, or if you're genuinely suffering. And I think it's interesting. Geoff, I know you've played it. Griff, are you playing it too, or?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Geoff, how far did you get?
I got like 20 minutes in.
I just heard it was, very highly spoken of with Game of the Year stuff, so I was just kind of wondering what your thoughts were on it, and if it truly did live in the are the accolades true?
I think they will be, but it's, you hear all of that like effusive praise, and you expect to be drawn in and immediately captivated, and have the game be fun right off the bat. But you have to kind of temper your expectations and remind yourself this is a CRPG, so it's not the kind of thing where it's a CRPG where there's no combat. So it's not the kind of thing where you jump in the game and immediately you're like, oh heck yeah, It's a brand new experience that you kind of have to get acclimated to, and the rules are not upfront, And so there's kind of an adjustment period, but kind of almost like Dragon Quest XI. I feel like once you start picking up what the game is putting down and you start moving at its pace and you realize what the space in which it wants you to play, I think that you start to realize that this is like a completely unique experience, which is really exciting. And also the writing and the art are enough to kind of carry you through as well. So I'm really excited to play more. Yeah.
Well, I think I want to check it out, but I just don't know where that's going to fall in the priority list. But what you're saying about it reminds me a lot of my experience with picking up Outer Wilds after towards the end of the year and into January, and playing that on PlayStation 4. I was not smitten by it. I don't know if either of you guys played Outer Wilds, but time loop exploration, space travel.
I liked it. I didn't get very far at all. I feel like if it's the kind of thing, it's probably similar to Disco Elysium. It's the kind of thing where if you happen to be on its wavelength and you're ready for that type of experience, I'm sure it could be very, very, very rewarding. Mm-hmm. I think that what is unique about Disco Elysium is more immediately apparent than what is unique about
Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that, having played a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think that there are other things about, I mean, if you have any interest in like mental health or the brain or anything, that's like an extra added layer which will keep you invested in Disco Elysium. And I think the game is so obfuscate. I can't say that word.
Obfuscated.
So whatever that word is in certain ways that it compels you to keep playing it just because you want to figure out what the hell it's doing and you want to figure out what's all the fuss about.
You saying Outer Wilds is or Disco Elysium is?
Disco Elysium is.
Interesting.
Yeah, Disco Elysium is when you load that game up, you immediately know you're doing something different. I think my biggest hurdle with Disco Elysium is I've never gotten past like the kind of window dressing of CRPGs to actually get into their meat and potatoes. Like, I always am like, yeah, I'm going to do it this time, and then I never do it.
Yeah, it's tough.
What's that?
It's tough. The way that I'm thinking of it is that this is like one of the most unique role-playing experiences, maybe. So I want to make sure that I get that.
Yeah.
Because this has never been done before. And even if you think about games that have plenty, like a huge amount of playable characters, like didn't Suikoden 2 have like
108 Stars of Destiny?
And so, the 20 or so areas of your brain that chime in from time to time kind of feel like that. But even then, it's still pretty unique. And I definitely want to play it. It's the kind of game that you play for like, again, like Dragon Quest, it's the kind of game that you play for like an hour or two before bedtime, and you're like chilling, and you're on its wavelength, and there's no big explosions. It's not the second to second isn't fun, It's not like in Luigi's Mansion, pressing the vacuum button is fun, and it's always fun. It's never not fun. This is not like a fun game. It's an interesting journey, but it's not, rewarding like in terms of the mechanics. Yeah,
it's not direct. It's there's a lot of layers of abstraction.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Interesting. I'm sure I've said it in the past in my younger, less wise days. Said like all games should be fun. But I would appreciate that if it's going for something else. Like, it doesn't have to be fun, immediately fun, or even fun over an extended period to be worthwhile.
Well, I think I think it's fun in the way that like reading is fun. Like it's it's not a game ass game. I mean it's like a CRPG.
Right.
I mean you have to look at a thing and use your brain.
As long as it's not being intentionally disrespectful of the player, then I think that sounds interesting. Just to bring it back to Outer Wilds here, the game didn't really. I can see where. So, Geoff, I think you may recall this. Like, I picked it up, played it for maybe an hour or two, and was like, hot trash, garbage, hate this. Just did not click, zero interest. And then he said to go back to it, so I gave it another chance. And there was something in it for me that was like, the more I did play with it, the more I felt the pull to like. I would want like, all right, let's try another run. Let's see what I can do this time. And like, it did get some hooks in me, and I would walk away from it, and I'd have it in my brain saying like, oh, okay, so maybe if I did this path this time, or there's that area that I kind of explored a little bit there, but then I didn't, fully get all that information. There's something still on the map. So that stuff really stuck with me for Outer Wilds. The problem that I had with Outer Wilds is none of the story reward, or none of the story like treasure that it was giving up did I find interesting. Like, it's like, oh, they built this thing to do this thing. It's like, huh, okay. It's like, that's it, huh? That's what you get. That's what you get. And I don't know, like, I guess I know enough about the game, and I know, like, from Game of the Year talks, like what the quote unquote ending is. But it's like, I just never felt like the game was the mystery that was unfolding was interesting, was deserving enough for the effort that I was putting into it to uncover it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I do think that if I ever put the time in with Outer Wilds, I think I will like it. It sounds like it's up my alley, but let's be real. It's not going to happen. This year is already crazy enough.
I mean, is it crazy though? Because there's a lot of delays.
I mean,
it's true.
That's true.
You ready
but
for Animal Crossing? Because I am.
I mean, there's other things that are more
Don't
like
think
immediate.
I'm jumping on board this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's too much like Minecraft.
I don't need another.
You don't believe in happiness
peaked
anymore.
For me.
You just don't. You don't believe in goodness and smiling and the laughter of children. It's fine.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt when you guys didn't immediately love Dragon Quest Builders too. It's like there's something wrong with your minds.
That's I feel like the laughter of children is alive, knowing that Jamie likes Dragon Quest 11. You have no idea how delighted that makes me.
2019 for me was the year of Dragon Quest.
Animal Crossing New Horizons and Doom Eternal come out one day apart, so I think I know where I'm going that day.
You're going to hell, and you're going to heaven.
Yeah.
Heaven has bad guys in it now.
I'm super pumped for that.
Every time I think of Doom, I know that Doom is good, and people like Doom, and it's fun. But I just think of Pete Hines just being a kind of a D-bag, and I'm like,
Is he?
Every time I think of Doom, I just get happy.
Huh.
Alvin thinks he's a
Agree.
D-bag.
Yeah.
Pete Hines, man, I don't know, he just gives me some vibes.
Yeah, but I mean, also the dude's. I don't know. I appreciate that flavor in the industry.
You know, it's obviously it's a deeply personal aversion. Also, I'm just not that great at first-person shooters.
Fair enough.
Now I had to Google Pete Hines.
You know who he is now?
Now I know who he's like a slightly douchier energy. What's his name? Xbox man. Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer is thicker and therefore juicier and more dad-like, but also more like
less hair.
Your buddy.
I always think of Pete Hines as video game Henry Rollins.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
I'm super excited for the new Doom. I'm super excited for like everything that's coming out this year, and it probably is all going to suck. I just need to tell myself that.
I mean,
so that when it doesn't, I'm like cool with it.
Now that it has more time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that Cyberpunk delay was pretty long and pretty last minute. Like, I don't know what that means, but like, come on, guys.
I played Witcher
sad.
3 again after
I was
watching
gonna say,
the
didn't Witcher
show.
3 get a ton of delays?
Yeah, it did. I believe.
Yeah, I might have. Yeah, it's I guess what just surprises me it's such a long delay, and it's so like obviously I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of talking about this too much because it's been much ink has been spilled, but like they're gonna crunch like crazy for 5 months, and it's like what? I don't know, man. It just makes me sad.
Yeah, hopefully it's not that. I mean, hopefully it's a strategic marketing piece of like, hey, the back end of this year is pretty wide open. We know that there's interest. Let's take our. I mean, hey, this is just me being overly optimistic.
Well, they've already been on record being like, yeah, we're going to work really long hours.
Oh yeah, CD Projekt Red is full of shitheads.
Yeah, no, they were like, we're going to work really hard during this delay. Like everyone is going to be working a lot of overtime. It was like very direct. Like, yes, we will be crunching for 5 months.
Yeah, that's
But at least
it
Polish
sucks.
labor
It's
laws
just,
mean they have to get paid for the overtime. That's
What
a silver lining.
What are the Polish labor laws?
The Polish labor laws, I believe, according to Jason Schreier's tweets, the one silver lining about this whole thing is that whereas other companies, will have their salaried people crunch and then they don't get paid extra because they're salaried, even if you, for CD Projekt Red in Poland, even if you're salaried, if you work extra, you have to get compensated in a commensurate way for that extra time.
Maybe I should move to Poland.
Which is nice. It still sucks, but...
I might find better. I said maybe I should move to Poland. I might find better work there. Womp womp.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like there's a little bit of time this year. I feel like I'm not feeling pressured to check out new stuff, which is nice because it gives me time to try to dig into some of this back catalog that I really want to give its due, but I haven't yet.
Yeah, me too, man.
So. Are either of you going to play Dreams?
Oh, hell no.
I want to.
Hell no? An adamant hell no?
No, I don't care. I don't care about Media Molecule. I'm sorry. Like, they're fine, but just like, nah. I mean, the paper game was alright. It was cute.
I like Little Big Planet 3
what was
a lot.
The paper game?
Tearaway.
Tearaway, yeah.
Oh.
I like Tearaway a lot.
It was cute.
I dig them. I'll play them. I'll probably get super excited about all the creative tools, then get super overwhelmed.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm sorry.
Pull out your ice cream cones and get sculpting.
What was that, Griff?
I said pull out your ice cream cones and get sculpting.
Like, what even is that game anymore? It's everything and nothing. It's I don't know, man. It's bacon and eggs, I guess.
Yeah,
it was 100% off my radar in 2019. Now with the official release coming in February, I mean, I'm interested enough in it to give it a try.
I mean, it'd be a great, let's say, video game service rental.
Yep, sure is.
I don't know. I already don't play my PS4 enough, and the idea of a game that I have to keep coming back to with like creative elements that has an ever evolving community, I just don't really want to turn my PS4 on that much. That's how I feel. I'm just like, nah, I'm good. Like, that thing has been off for months, and it will stay that way.
Do you plan on turning your PlayStation 5 on at all?
I'll probably get suckered in, but I don't care right now. I have zero interest in it at the moment, but I'm sure that when it gets announced, they'll announce some exclusive, and I'll go for it. What about you guys?
Does the fact that Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a PC port? Does this like?
That's very exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. Are you thinking maybe with the days of the exclusives being a bygone era, maybe it's time to just say goodbye to consoles?
I don't know. My problem is I get a console and then I let it languish. Like, I feel like the barrier to entry.
Well, we have PCs.
Yeah. What's that, Jamie?
I feel like that it's one thing to say that when you have a PC.
Yeah.
And it's another thing. It would be another thing entirely to say that if you were a console gamer.
Oh yeah, no, consoles are doing great. Like, I'm not worried about the next generation. I'm just speaking for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm more curious about. Is Geoff? Are you, Geoff, leaning more towards like I don't need a console this go around, or I'll wait. You don't need to be there at launch.
I mean, I'm sure that Sony will, they'll be like, hey, Final Fantasy VII Part 2 coming exclusively to PS5, and I'm like, fuck, yeah, I gotta buy it. Or something. I don't know. Like, something's gonna happen, and then, I'll reluctantly get in there. But yeah, no, I'm not, I don't know, it's the same pattern every time. Like, I'm in for a couple of years, and then I have a hard time fitting consoles into my life. Like, we have one TV. I don't want to upgrade. It's interesting, when you were mentioning upgrading your whole setup, Jamie, I was thinking to myself, like, I have a receiver that's capable of 1080p, doesn't support HDR pass-through or anything like that. Like, I would need to get a brand new everything in order to really embrace the next generation. I just don't want to.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and I'm just like, this'll do.
Yeah, I have an okay television. I have a plasma from like 2013. I have.
Plasmas are great, man.
Yeah, plasmas are great. Like, don't get me wrong. It's fine. It's not a top end plasma, but it's a decent plasma. It's fine for watching television content. It's the thought of doing what I need to do in order to be on pace with where consoles are is really overwhelming to me. I currently have my PS4 sitting under my monitor. It's hooked up to my gaming monitor, but even that doesn't really have the feature set that I would need. I need a 4K monitor that supports HDR, which is insanely expensive, even more so than televisions. So, like, I just don't know how to make those elements work in my life. I don't know. I guess I'll have to make some choices and see how I'm doing financially when the next generation
I'm with you
drops.
too, Geoff, on that. Like, I just don't care about the graphical upgrades that are happening with the next generation. Like, I'm hoping that the focus is going into like AI and more of like the back end, or like the promise of faster load times and not sharing, but like cross-platform work. Like, that's where I'm hoping we land with this next area. Not like, it looks sharp, we got more particles.
I think that you might be happy then, because I do think, I mean, all the rumors are saying that in terms of like teraflops, it's not going to be that much of a big leap.
Yeah.
But you don't need a 4K HDR TV to see ray tracing. You can see ray tracing on a CRT, and it looks better. It looks real.
Yeah.
And you don't need a 4K HDR TV to appreciate PCIe SSDs.
No.
And I think that even for people who don't want to upgrade their TVs, I think that this generation will actually be like the best in terms of like tangible upgrades that don't have to do necessarily all with, fidelity in the most minute sense. And also, but I also think, as someone who did just buy, now in this house, well, I live with my parents, but now in this house there's four 4K TVs.
Jesus.
At various price ranges.
Oh my god!
And I can tell you that if you want to go to Best Buy and spend $300 on a 4K TV, you can get a good 4K TV for $300. Like, those exist out there. The market's at a kind of an interesting space. If you want to go spend, $3,000 on a 65-inch OLED, you can do that too. But if you want to spend $300 or $400, you can get something really good. And if you want to spend $500 or $600, you can get something pretty freaking awesome.
So here, a couple of responses to that. I don't want to spend any money, and also I don't want to buy a TV that's like good, but in some ways worse than what I already have.
Yeah, well, I mean, with a plasma, that's always going to be the case, because motion is just going to look worse. Unless I mean, the OLED that I just bought, motion looks pretty freaking incredible. But I mean, yeah. But what I think, going back to my original point, is that I don't think that you guys are going to need to upgrade to see the differences. And in a way,
yeah,
it'll probably run better for you. Like, when it's outputting 1080. It'll probably run smoother for you guys than it will for me.
Well, that's kind of the open question, I think. And that's something I'm going to be paying attention to, I guess, in this next gen rollout, is like, where is the emphasis placed? Because I think that a lot of consumers have started to embrace 4K. Like, I know that I'm probably behind the curve of a lot of, technology adopters in terms of moving
I think,
but
I just want to jump in quick, Geoff. I think that consumers are not embracing 4K, but they're accepting it because nobody really knows what it is or what it does, except it looks sharper.
Yeah. Also, like no movies are natively shot in 4K anyway.
Exactly.
They're all upscaled.
But hey, 8K's here now, so
literally, like the cameras they're using right now are like, I think a little bit over 1080p. Like they are not anything. It's insane. But anyway, that's a whole other kettle of fish. It makes more sense for gaming than it does for consuming, other types of content.
And 4 HDR is still a confusing clusterfuck. Like on this new TV that I got, which can understand multiple different types of HDR, it has this feature where when it senses that HDR is happening and it's processing HDR, like a little icon will pop up on the screen like, okay, this is HDR and this is Dolby Vision and I'm doing it for you. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And then it'll be like, okay, this is HDR and this is HDR10 and I'm doing it for you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And
does it ever pop up and be like, you never thank me? Do you not see my work?
It's such a confusing
It's a living.
Like
Mondays, am I right?
Like, have you guys even heard of these? Have you guys heard of HLG or Dolby Vision or
HLG,
HDR10?
That's the shopping network, right? Or the one that Nancy Grace is on?
That's a home garden living home gardens.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, HDR is better than 4K. HDR is the upgrade that you want. HDR is also like a complete clusterfuck. And that's what you're kind of missing out on when you buy a cheaper 4K TV. You're buying a TV that can probably understand one of the myriad types of HDR. And anytime it gets a different type of HDR, it's going to like translate that into the type of HDR it understands. So HDR is just a total mess. If you buy a nice OLED, if you're lucky enough like me to buy an OLED that can understand all the different types, then you're golden. But for most people, it's just a clusterfuck. And I think it's hilarious that these companies think that we're already there with 4K HDR, so let's introduce 8K. I think that's insane.
Can I just get a television that only has 256 colors as opposed to HDR? It's just fewer colors, so all the gradient is like highly stepped.
Okay, well, what you got to do is you got to buy 256 hue of the hue bulbs, Philips hue bulbs, and put them on your wall.
Yo, monochrome televisions, man. That's where it's at.
I'm guessing that. So speaking of all of this, I'm guessing that from where you guys are coming from, you guys are pretty happy about this announcement then from Philly Spence that all the Xbox games are going to be, day and date with older versions on the older consoles for at least 2 years. And I even as someone like me who's like, I always have to have the newest, latest, best. I always want to push like to the bleeding edge of tech. Even for someone like me, I kind of think that's kind of it's a cool goal. I think it's probably going to end up backfiring, but what do you guys think?
I'm not exactly...
Well, I think, Geoff, we'll just get this out of the way. We're not Xbox people, so it's not really that big of a thing for directly impacting me.
Yeah.
I think it's cool in theory, and I hope other, companies embrace it.
I don't really have strong feelings about it. Like, I feel like, so first of all, I love the Series X reveal, and I'm a person who's not an Xbox person, but has like increasingly wanted to be an Xbox person. I like look at what Microsoft is doing, and I'm like, it's really nice and it's cool and it's some neat stuff. But unfortunately, the exclusives keep me tethered to the Sony ecosystem, like it or not. But I don't know, like it doesn't, I guess I just feel kind of confused about it. Like, I understand that, cross-generational transitions are hard and blah, 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 investment, etc. But like, I don't know whether I like it or not, truthfully. Like, I really don't know. Like, it feels detached for me. Like, it's like, I don't use my console hardware right now, and it's going to require a paradigm shift for me to get back into thinking about consoles again. Because, like, I don't even play my Switch hooked up to a TV. I just play it handheld all the time because that's just how I like to do it. So, like, I don't It just feels
it
weird.
would be a lot more.
Yeah.
It would be a lot more impactful for me if it was the role reversed. If it was PlayStation coming out and saying everything's still going to be good to go on the 4 as it is the 5, and then Microsoft was the one that was silent. Because, like you said, I'm leaning more towards moving over into that space as you know as the two big dogs shift places and Xbox is shifting towards more player-friendly centric, and Sony is going back to their weird get a second job mentality again. So I'm tempted, but at the same time, like you said, the exclusiveness and my attachment to the PlayStation as a brand, like I would be more interested in it if it was Sony saying it instead of Microsoft.
And it's like pro-consumer, but it's unexciting. Sorry, go ahead, Jamie. I know you want to...
I was just going to say, well, Sony has already said that there will be... Well, they haven't said. It's pretty...
someone has rumored, or I can't remember who it was. Someone was like, yeah, there's going to be PS5 exclusives.
Credible.
Like controlled leak type thing.
Yeah, that there's going to be PS5 exclusives at launch. So for me, when I first heard this, I was really pissed off because if you know about the chips that are in the original Xbox One and the PS4, is even when they were launched, they were really, really old, really, really bad AMD laptop chips.
Yeah.
So even when the systems launched, that tech was like old and outdated and probably held games back this generation. Now, and then him coming out and saying that it's going to be supported. At first I'm like, what the hell? Like, how is that even possible? Because now the tech that they're coming out with now, the new AMD Ryzen stuff, is so far beyond. It's amazing to me that he could even say that. But then I thought about the Switch and realized that if they can put Witcher out on the Switch, even if it looks like a potato, if they can put Witcher out on the Switch, they can do anything. And I think it's actually pretty awesome. And I pay for Xbox One Ultimate on PC, and I think it's like incredible. I love the app is like super slick and awesome. It's like the antithesis of like the Windows Store, the old Windows Store. The Xbox One app on PC is like incredible. It's super slick. It feels like, much like every time Philly Spence gets up on stage, I'm like, yeah, this dude loves games. It's like when I open up that stupid Xbox Ultimate app, I'm like, the people who make this app like love games, and the games are like displayed nicely and they're presented nicely, and you get all these incredible games for free day and date. That's how I played Outer Worlds, because it was day and date on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And I'm with you guys. Like I'm Sony all the way, because that's how I've always been. But I already pay for this freaking Game Pass thing. It's like, why? Of course I'm going to get a Series X. Like, I already own all these games on it. So I think it's a cool direction for them to be going in.
I just want them to bag some, I don't know. I need them to get the Japan games. Give me my anime girls, and then I'll be over.
Truth.
But they won't.
Yeah, I don't need the anime girls, but I need a good reason to go to that ecosystem exclusive wise. Like, there's still too much out there that's in the PlayStation wheelhouse.
And I think that
alone.
I don't live in a setting like in my home. I don't think my home is big enough, nor do I think my wallet is big enough for me to sustain multiple like premier prestige consoles. I think the Switch is kind of its own thing, which is justified. I mean, Nintendo kind of always has a way of justifying the expense for me because I'm a huge fanboy, and also they're cool. But like, when it comes to, Microsoft, Sony, it really is. I just don't feel like there's space in my life for both of them to exist. And even if I love some of the stuff that Microsoft is doing, like there was a Series X with like another controller in a game for $250 last year, and I was like seriously considering it. Or it's not Series X, whatever the hell it's called. Xbox One X.
One.
And I was considering it, but then I was like, no, like I can't do, like, I have a hard enough time with one console.
Another console to not play.
Yeah, exactly.
Hooray!
So, yeah, it's going to be one, and it's probably going to be Sony unless Microsoft can grab the kinds of things I want. I mean, I will say that Sony, as they've moved into more Western stuff, I'm like less compelled, but you know, they still have a couple of things that really speak to me. So
my big worry is that that they're going to come out, like, let's take Halo 5, for example. Halo 5? Is that the what it is? Halo
no,
Infinite.
it's Infinite. 5's already out.
Yeah, 5's already. All right, so so Halo Infinite is going to come out on the Xbox One X and Series X, right? And I bet on Series X, it's gonna look incredible. It's probably gonna have some sort of ray tracing something or other. But even with all of these bells and whistles, I worry that it will, in terms of raw performance, it'll run more poorly on the Series X because it's doing all of this stuff. And on the Xbox One X, I think it'll probably be buttery smooth, but it won't have ray tracing and it won't have all this other stuff. And I'm worried that there's going to be like a tremendous backlash. And people are just going to be like, why the hell would anyone ever buy like this thing? And then I feel like that's going to be really bad. Could you guys see a future where that happens or not really?
Well, I think the big problem is like Lockhart.
It's a good point.
Which one's the one that's weaker? Is it Lockhart?
I don't know.
Tifa?
You know how the strategy for next gen for Xbox is widely rumored to be like a 4 or 5 teraflop machine, and then like a 12 teraflop machine. Mm-hmm. That's what you guys have heard,
Lockhart
right?
I think Lockhart is the lower power one.
Okay. So it's like widely rumored that there's going to be something that's weaker than the One X, and it's like obviously that's not really accurate. It's going to be computationally, like, you know, CPU wise, it'll be far more powerful, but it's just going to be weird. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to make of all this stuff yet. But I don't know. What I would say is, like, if there is a cool killer app on Series X or whatever the hell it's called, whatever the umbrella term for all the new generation hardware is, I would consider switching. I don't know.
Yeah, I still need to take stock of what's in the PlayStation world, right? Like, the newest Yakuza game that just came out this month, where it's like a turn-based RPG, has me. Yes, thank you. I'm very interested in seeing where that goes. You know, there's Final Fantasy, there's the Horizon Zero Dawn 2, the Depression game, Last of Us 2. I mean, there's just these things that are still out there.
I'm not sure if I want to play that game. It looks so...
Yeah, exactly.
It looks so unpleasant, man.
Yeah.
But that's how the first one... You guys... I mean, that's how the first one was for me.
The first one was oppressive,
but I didn't know it was going to be that...
Also, like, the first one was oppressive, but also... you know, it's like The Handmaid's Tale, right? So the first season of Handmaid's Tale was really depressing, but compelling to watch. The second season of Handmaid's Tale, you're like, this is just torture porn. Like, you're like, okay, you can't be in an oppressive world for too long, because it starts to feel awful. Mm-hmm. Like, it already feels awful, but it starts to feel like, why, like, you want to die. Like, I don't know, I don't know if I can stomach another game in that world.
I feel you, absolutely.
There's a lot of reasons why I feel like it was kind of perfect that it ended where it did. So I don't know, We'll see. But anyway.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Don't care.
Don't care. Interesting.
Don't care. How do you guys feel?
Huh.
I'm agnostic.
I'm very interested in it.
What'd you say, Jamie? You're what?
I think it looks incredible. I feel like I have no connection to that game,
exactly.
or like any touchstone for why I might be drawn in. I mean, it looks incredible. I'll probably buy it and play it, but I'm anticipating it.
My interest in it is solely because it is being. There are so many other people out there who are like drooling for it, and I don't understand why. And I also didn't really love Nioh, nor did I love Sekiro. So I'm like, okay, is this going to be the one? You know, the feudal Japan that gets me?
I went back and I tried to play Sekiro after the Game Awards, and I do not understand that game at all. I think it's beautiful.
It doesn't jive with me either.
I am at this one boss, And I do not understand how people play this game. Like, the mechanics of the game on a very fundamental level make no sense to me. It's really kind of befuddling to me. It's
counterintuitive, 100%.
I would say they make sense, but they feel like, I get that it's like a really deep dive into a couple of things, but it feels more restrictive than any Soulsian type game that came before it, and in ways that I don't personally jive with.
Agree.
Yeah. So it's like, I get it, and I'm like, all right, cool, sure, but I'm just like, this just feels less than everything that came before it, even if it's really tight in what it's trying to do, which I don't even know if it is. Like, I can't decide if it's really tight in what it's trying to do or not.
And I attribute that to, like, it's like, okay, it must be a lack of my skill. Like, other people are extremely successful, and it just works with them. It doesn't for me. Like, whether it's a timing issue or the ability to, read attacks or whatever, it just, I can't do it.
And some of the punishing elements of of that game just feel more annoyingly punishing than anything that came before it. Like, I could get murdered in Bloodborne, and that was a little irritating, or murdered in Dark Souls, and that was a little irritating, but I was always like, okay, yeah, sure, like, let's do this some more and see if I can learn from it. Sometimes Sekiro, I'm just like, okay, this is just like annoying. Like, this is just like, why am I messing with this? Like, I don't know, something about it. Failure in that game just feels especially grating.
I think for me the noticeable factor is, with previous of the Souls games, you could get back, like, okay, you get punished by a boss or something like that, right? Like, you die, and you can get back to that boss pretty quickly and get back into the fray. My struggle with Sekiro was, if I would get destroyed by this boss because I don't know its full moveset, or I messed up one time and then I got punished for it, like, I have to take so much time, like, tediously doing this, like, preliminary crowd control on this area to just make it so it's viable for me to focus on what's going on. And maybe that's my, like, lack of skill, and that people can play that game and crowd control and also take on a boss.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, bullshit giant rooms full of enemies where it's like, you need to stealth this room first, and I love stealth, but in this game it's just like, no, like, I don't want to stealth. I just want to combat. And I want to combat a couple enemies at a time. I don't want to fight, like, 40 enemies that will just murder me if I don't stealth properly.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and I've been playing, one thing I didn't get to say before when we were talking about what we've been playing, but I've been playing Blasphemous, which is excellent, and I was going back and forth between playing Blasphemous and trying to get back into Sekiro. And every time I would just be like, okay, Dark Souls, or for me specifically, Bloodborne, taught me that I can enjoy a game like Blasphemous. And for me right now, Blasphemous is just so amazingly and instantaneously fun and rewarding. And then I would go back and play Sekiro and be like, I just don't get it. I just have no idea where the allure is. So I hope... It has me hoping that this is like a one-off for them, and that we're getting Bloodborne 2 next or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want Mech Souls. I want something that isn't...
Mech Souls would be rad.
Fucking... I am so goddamn tired of fantasy. I'll tell you guys. It's like, I need Cyberpunk because I am so tired of fantasy.
Have you played The Surge? The Surge is Mech Souls. It's there for you. Did you try it?
I want not fantasy that's also good.
What about Remnant from the Ashes? Did you play that one?
I didn't, because I couldn't... I went to go rent it, actually, and they didn't have it in... And now you can't rent games anywhere. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm ready to
standing in the remains of a bombed-out Blockbuster. He's, like, very confused.
Remnant's supposed to be pretty cool. It's...
I've heard that, too.
Yeah, I don't even think I've seen it in action, but I've heard cool things.
I need to watch a video on it before I do anything.
What was I going to say? Oh, Jamie, you should just quickly just kind of go over Blasphemous. I also played the demo.
I played the demo too after you guys recommended it.
Yeah, did you enjoy it, Griff?
Yeah, I did.
It's surprisingly... I know that it's kind of a middling Metacritic, and I guess people complain about difficulty. It really does just feel like pretty well executed 2D Dark Souls. With this...
What did they complain about difficulty? Because for me, it's like easier than a Dark Souls. And it's easier for me than like... Hollow Knight, and I loved Hollow Knight, but I haven't beaten it because it's so freaking hard. This I'm churning through. Like, I'm probably more than halfway through based on some of the collectible amounts that I've gotten and like the way that it's signposting to me.
Yeah.
But I just love it. I think it's fabulous. It's shocking to me how much it adheres directly and hilariously to the Dark Souls formula, but I think it's truly wonderful. The only thing that I've noticed is on PC, and I got it on PC because it was super cheap, is sometimes I get stuck on the floor and stuff, which super sucks.
Yeah, no kidding.
But that's pretty rare, and the checkpointing is actually fairly lenient for this type of game.
I feel like it does that Dark Souls thing well, where it's like dying doesn't really feel that irritating. Like, you don't lose your collectibles. Yeah, you lose some of your currency or whatever, but like, it's just not that big a deal.
Definitely.
And it feels so Dark Souls-y, like you said, Jamie, in the same way that like the bosses, once you learn their patterns, are kind of a joke. And I don't know why people complained about difficulty. It was almost like that crowd didn't like respect that it was just Dark Souls. I don't know. But I wondered if it got way harder as you went farther on, because I just played the demo.
I don't know. I'm playing. I love that game, and not to.
I got the big Dead Cells vibes, so I was kind of like, I appreciate what this is. I just don't need more of that right now.
Dead Cells.
It does have that feel.
I guess so.
I think it's different enough, but
yeah, I think it's different than Dead Cells. It feels a little bit more just like focused on, developing the combat it has and not offering like slightly different tweaked playthroughs each time around and less randomized.
One of the craziest things, and this kind of ties back in with our earlier conversation on like the new tech and the new consoles and stuff. One of the craziest things is I'm playing this on a PC hooked up into my new OLED, and one of the crazy things about the new OLEDs is that they have super, super low response times, like so low that you haven't gamed on a TV and felt this type of response time since like you played on a CRT and you're playing Super Nintendo with a wired controller. And that is one thing that I, much like ray tracing, you don't need like a crazy TV to see ray tracing. I mean, you do need a crazy TV for this kind of like instant response time stuff, but oh my God, it's like, it's immediately like better. And my TV is also like, G-Sync, whatever. So it like NVIDIA, it all works super nice, and it's like super responsive and super snappy. And when that stuff is baked into all of the new consoles, if you do happen to upgrade to like a new TV that can like take advantage of all that stuff, I think that will be something that people really respond to, because that is like kind of an immediate thing that you can feel. You literally can feel it, and you're like, oh, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, I think it's great that variable refresh rate and all that stuff is already confirmed to be like baked into certainly the Xbox One or the Xbox Series X. I think they have set it for PS5 as well.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, but that stuff is a huge game changer.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be stuff that will be really new to the console crowd. Just like, it never feels laggy AF.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
Or like you don't even know. Like you forget how good it can feel. Like when you're just used to, like I'm used to playing Bloodborne on like on a big, LCD television, and we've just gotten used to that over the last 10, 15 years, and you forget that, it doesn't need to feel that way, and you can have more of an immediate response. So I'm excited about that stuff. That's kind of a tangent, but I think that's cool.
Interesting, because I am very curious about that, what you just said, and kind of testing that. I've never really put that together or had that feeling or that noticing of latency, and I do have my Super Nintendo hooked to a CRT TV, and I play Mega Man every year, and I want to kind of keep that at the front of my mind while I do that, and then go mess around with an action game on the PlayStation or something, and see like, is there really noticeable differences?
Or even better, load up I don't know if you have a PC that you could plug into
why would I do that? Why the fuck would I ever do that?
Into one of your TVs, but like load up a Mega Man on a good emulator and just play it on the SNES and then play it on the emulator.
Are you saying to notice the lag on the TV?
Well, a lot of emulators have baked-in lag too. Like there's input lag for the various like controllers that you hook up to them and stuff like that. That's why RetroArch has the run-ahead feature to help with that. For me, I never really notice it, but I would be curious to see like if you were to play like, for example, Mega Man on like your PS4 and then on a SNES, like would you notice the difference?
Yeah, I definitely want to be aware of that and check it out.
Anyway,
if you do, then
actually, you know what would be more feasible?
A new
Maybe
game
the Switch
on one of these new TVs is kind of like a revelation. But if you don't, then just another feature that probably would fly under the radar for you. But I do believe, much like I think that the average person can't really see the difference between 4K and 1080, and much like the average person, because they're probably buying something that doesn't handle HDR that well, probably won't like really get the benefits of HDR. Just like I feel like those are kind of like lower tier stuff. But like ray tracing, you can see ray tracing on like a TV could be black and white, and you could see the ray traced game would look better. I also feel like that with regards to this. Like I feel like most people, when they pick up a controller and they press jump, I think they'll be like, oh, wow, okay. I think that most people will kind of get it right away, which is really cool. I like how they're focusing on these things, load times, ray tracing, variable refresh rate, and like low latency. Like I think they are focusing on things that the average person might put low stock in, but then when they actually get their hands on the thing, they might be like, oh, okay, I get it. So I don't know. I'm hoping that that's enough to kind of stir up enough interest and keep the whole console thing going.
Yeah, that sounds... like I said before, that's what I'm hoping for too. Do we want to talk about any other games, or I was going to kind of ask a question?
I'm good.
I could briefly just touch on Hades, and then I don't want to spend too much time on anything else. You guys should check out Hades. I got it super cheap on the Epic Store, but I think it's on Steam now. It's
what is it?
What's that?
What is? Have I heard of this? What is
this? Transistor and Bastion devs.
I played this game.
Yeah.
I love this game.
It's a great game. I have dabbled in Supergiant games before. I played a little bit of Transistor and a little bit of Bastion, and I was like, these look nice, but I just am not super hooked in. I think for whatever reason, the mechanics kind of bounced off me. This time around, though, Hades is a roguelike, so it's already got points for me for being that. And just the conceit is you're like escaping from hell. The game is like super hard in the way that I like roguelikes to be, but definitely feels like it kind of unveils its riches to you as you play more and understand its systems. The upgrade mechanics are fun, relatively balanced. You're never playing a run that feels totally weak, but there's a lot of variety. It's in active development right now, but it's still super fun to play, even where it is. I think it'll be a game that gets a lot of buzz when it actually comes out. But it's really entertaining right now. Like there is a game that you can play more or less to completion. I guess they're going to add a couple more areas, but I've played quite a bit of it and really enjoyed it. I'll probably wait. I think there's a major update coming today. I'll probably check that out. But it's super fun. It's just that beautiful, Supergiant art style. Really solid combat, a variety of different playstyles. There's like 5 different weapons right now. I think there's going to be 6 eventually, that all control very differently. Upgrade pathways involving like Olympian gods, which are really cool. That's cool. My cat scooping litter right now.
It's like, who's opening their mail?
But yeah,
I loved it. It felt to me immediately more responsive and enjoyable than Transistor, which I enjoyed as well. But this
Transistor's a little clunky.
Transistor is also a totally different breed in the action game format.
Yeah, I mean, it's going for different things, and whereas what Transistor was doing with like its like stacks and vaguely coding-esque approach to attacks kind of bounced off me. This is a lot more direct.
More Bastion,
but in a way that I like more. I don't know. I guess I've always liked the Transistor art style, but sometimes I find their storytelling to be a little precious. And I still think the storytelling is a little precious in this game, but you can just power right through that and ignore it.
I love the precious storytelling. Pyre was so good.
I haven't played Pyre, so I can't speak to that. But my experience of Bastion and Transistor was like, okay, this is a little overwrought. This is a little bit too much for me. And Zagreus, the main character of Hades, is very much that. Like, he's always a little breathy and like fancy in the way he's talking about things, and there's a lot of drama, and he's just kind of this angsty teen, and it's really annoying. But the actual minute-to-minute gameplay is super fun. It's just a lot of room clearing, just combat for the sake of combat, and I like it a lot.
Cool.
Awesome. Do you know if that's... Okay, so it's Epic Game Store.
It's on Steam as well.
That's
now.
where it first launched, right?
Yep.
Steam, okay. Is there... do you know if there's plans for console?
I would imagine there are, because it's you don't want to play this game on a mouse and keyboard. It's really designed for controller. So to me, it seems like a completely natural fit to put it on any and every console. I don't know if it would necessarily run on Switch, but certainly on current gen hardware. Otherwise, it would run great. So I definitely suspect that it will come to other hardware.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to play it.
Yeah, you definitely should. It's really fun. The thing about roguelites is like they always kind of peter out, right? Like they're always gonna be fun until they're not. But
definitely for me, yeah.
But you know what? Like it is really fun, and I've had a lot of fun with it, and I've already gotten more than my money's worth out of it. So, yeah.
Sweet,
Cool.
very cool.
That's all.
Okay. So I just wanted to throw out like a quick question. Since we have been talking about console stuff, I don't think there's been anything formally announced on the rollout, on the launch of these things. Do you guys have any... Am I wrong? Or has there been any speculation?
On when they're going to come out?
Credible speculation? Yeah.
I think Series X was holiday 2020. I think it was announced as that.
Okay,
Maybe not.
interesting.
Maybe it was just shown.
Just get your thoughts, like, with Sony pulling out of E3 again, and what do you think that spells for this year's launch timing on these consoles?
November.
If you were to make a bet, when do you think these things would come
Before
out?
Black Friday.
I don't think that them pulling out of E3 says anything about like the PS5 being delayed or anything. I would guess that that's just them continuing their gradual kind of distancing from E3. And I forget who was saying this, but maybe it was Giant Bomb. They were talking about how, Sony isn't, like, the leadership of Sony is now all in Europe.
Yep.
So none of those people give a shit about E3. Like, those people might be thinking about Gamescom. Those people might be thinking about something else. But I don't think the fact that they're not going to E3 means anything. I would say, if I were going to make a bet, I would probably say they're probably both, October, November. I would guess that Xbox One comes maybe like a month earlier. Mm-hmm. That would be my bet. Like Xbox One X, Series X is like a month earlier than the PS5. That's what I would say. So I'm not as
familiar as the 2 SKU model you guys were talking about, but do you think both of those launch at the same time, or do they just launch with the big bad boy?
That's a good question. I think they both launch at the same time.
We're talking about Microsoft specifically?
What was that, Jamie?
Are we talking about just Microsoft?
Yeah.
I think that Microsoft launches Series X first. I think that Microsoft launches Series X in October, November 2020. And I think that the smaller, lighter version, cheaper version, comes out winter or spring 2021.
Wow.
That would be my bet.
I think they launch at the same time, and I think the price differential is $200.
Do you think 600, 400?
They're 600, 400, or 500, 300. I don't know. Probably 500, 300 is my guess. And I think Sony comes out at 400 or 450. With a.
I think that thing's going to be $500.
But it's going to be a weaker machine. It's supposed to only be around 9 teraflops. I don't know.
I think they're both going to be higher than
we expect. Yeah, maybe. I mean, the consoles are in a great place right now, so they could get away with it.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be like a impromptu Sony event that's like, hey, check the details out for our PlayStation 5 information thing, or are they going to try and align with some event?
I think they'll have their own thing. Here's my one hot take about Sony not being at E3. I think that they have decided that it's easier for them to control the message when they're not relying upon an external partner to set up their trade events and all that stuff. But what I will say is I have noticed a direction of Sony this generation and just kind of in general towards it's sort of like a desire to have their cake and eat it too, like still holding the crown for exclusives and kind of interesting exclusives, but stretching the timetable out on those like ad infinitum and not really delivering anything in any one moment. Like I feel like the first time they weren't at E3, well, no, so they were at E3 with their church shit where they showed like 4 games, right? And then they weren't at E3 because they had nothing. And now they're not at E3 again because I feel like, and this is my hot take, I feel like there's not going to be anything at launch exclusive from Sony. There's going to be promises of launch window stuff.
Interesting.
That who knows how long it will take. But Sony is in such a power position right now that I feel like if they just dangle a few threads, if they're like, here's, hey, Cory Barlog is working on something, or like, hey, whatever is coming, spring 2020 or spring 2021, when really the actual planned date is like fall 2021 or later. Like, I think that I think they have a different approach to kind of the timing of their exclusives. They don't have very many. They let them percolate for a long time, but they kind of have faith in them being enough to keep people on the Sony side and then let the third parties fill in the gaps. That's my opinion.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Because look,
do you think?
Go ahead.
Do you think that they're going to lose this gen because they're kind of in this like hoity-toity, holier than thou position at this point, which is exactly where they were with PS2, PS3?
No, I don't think they're going to lose it.
I think they are, because I think Microsoft is already. I think they've already lost it because I think Microsoft is so open with the PC and connected into the PC and actually trying to shift away from a console-based exclusive environment.
So maybe
I think that's going to be the future.
Maybe they'll win the battle but lose the war. Maybe that's the hot take. But I feel like they're so well positioned that people just have a lot of, I don't know. I mean, Microsoft really did pretty poorly this time around. Like, they did not move a lot of hardware. And I think that they are doing some really awesome stuff, and I'm so excited about it, but I just don't think customers are going to bite. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see.
I think if the future truly is platforms as service, Microsoft will have this on lock, and Sony is going to be the one playing
That's probably
up.
True. But I do think that the median term will be more PS5 sold than Xbox Series models.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So if you're saying lose the war as in who actually sells more product, then yeah, I think Sony will push it again.
Everything that they're doing, though, is just really concerning to me, to the point where I feel like they could lose it just out of pure apathy. Like at CES, they had what's his name up there?
Cerny?
And no,
Jim Ryan.
And they announced one thing about the PS5, which is the logo, which is exactly the same as the PS4 logo, and it's like, what are you thinking? Like, do you really think that's enough? I feel like if that's the direction they're going in, like, aren't you excited to see our logo where we took the 4 out and we put the 5 in? I feel like they could easily lose it.
I think so too, especially with the talent that's been bleeding out of that company over the last 2 years.
Did you like the Photoshop of the like just PS?
Yeah.
There were some really good,
oh my God,
really good memes about the logo, I will say. I don't know. I think that unless they charge an insane amount of money for it, they will show a few exclusives, and like they will hold on to this idea that like they're the art house developer, right, or the publisher, right? Like they're the ones who have the stuff you can't get anywhere else. And they will continue to drip feed that stuff out. I mean, look, the pace of exclusives from Sony right now has been, in my opinion, glacial. Like, I have, with good reason, had very little purpose for turning my system on, because there's just nothing. But they keep promising the idea of, like, oh, Naughty Dog's working on something. Like...
Yeah.
Insomnia, whatever, they're Sucker Punch is, they're plodding along. That game's coming eventually, sometime. I don't know.
My other big prediction, my other hot take for this console generation is that, okay, they're using Zen 2, and it's hot as hell, and we're going to have one of the two of them, and if I had to bet which one, I actually say it would be Sony. We're going to have one of the two of these machines have like a Red Ring of Death type situation.
Interesting.
And I don't think it's going to be Microsoft, because I think that Microsoft has the right idea, just like a huge freaking tube with a giant fan at the top. And I feel like Sony's going to come out with some weird U-shaped nonsense that's still designed to fit inside of a like an entertainment system like thing. And I feel like it's just going to fry or something. I don't know.
Would you say that
that's my other hot
next
take.
Microsoft console is a series of tubes?
Yes. Oh my God. Very good.
That's interesting, Jamie. I don't know enough about like architecture or whatever you're referencing, but yeah, we haven't had a catastrophic issue. I was also kind of trying to think back to the PlayStation 4 launch, going to what you were saying, and at the time, just trying to think of what was the promises for exclusives at that time of launch, because launch it was the Resogun and
Knack.
You had the oh yeah.
I don't know. We'd have to go back and watch, but there were definitely things teased, and I think that the pace of Sony exclusives was better.
It was. They had a cadence of, okay, we know we're going to be getting an Uncharted on this, or we know we're going to be getting, The Last of Us 2 on this, like it was the knowledge that they had just finished with these big exclusives and had that momentum that was like, all right, and we're going to see more in the PlayStation 4, which you're absolutely right. It just took forever.
Yeah.
Took 5 ever.
Yeah, so that's my hot take about the moving away from trade shows. It's like we can control the message. We have altered the way that we approach exclusives. We find that it's better just to sort of hang on to what we have and dangle it and sort of be vague about release timings and let the third parties do the rest. But I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm not a businessman. That's just my kind of armchair.
You're a business man.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Anyway, though, any other stuff we should hit? Because we're coming up on a.
I think we're good. Here. I don't know if there's much more to talk about, especially with this kind of being the top of the year. Nothing's really happened, and we're all just waiting for a couple games. I will tell you, I'm gonna go play some Dragon Quest XI, though.
I really hope it grabs you.
I hope you like it.
Give it a little while to get its hooks in.
Just be prepared to chill.
Yeah.
Just don't go in being like, just be ready to vibe with it.
Yeah.
Just light a candle, sit in your bubble bath, and just vibe.
Yeah.
Okay?
Also, look at those cute little monsters. Just watch them bob around for a little while because they're real cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they're really cute.
Got it. Can do.
There's this one little slime that has a little knight who's connected to him, and then you can ride them both.
Wait, I have a very important question. Does this game have a cooking minigame?
No, it has a forging minigame.
Okay, that'll work.
It's a very easy, it's like a low-key, chill forging minigame. No timing.
Yeah.
Just, kind of plan your numbers kind of game, but it feels satisfying.
Okay. But it's not cooking.
It's not cooking, no.
The most aggressive aggressive and inscrutable game thing in the entire game is a mini game, and it's the casino mini game, and it is so obtuse and in your
love
face
it so much.
And I have no words, but literally that is the most intense, stressful thing in the game.
The slot machine has I think 3 or 4 games within a game. You can access so many different layers of additional gambling randomness. You think just the reels are all you're going to get? Nope, you're wrong.
There are
so much more.
There
Is
are
it like
5
that
full
video
pages.
of the kids like playing that crazy UFO arcade game and it just keeps like unfolding? Oh my god!
What were you going to say,
There
Jane?
are 5 full pages of instructions for the slot machine.
Yeah. The best
It's insane.
The best way to actually win at the slot machine is basically to turn on like auto gamble. Just buy a lot of chips. I remember now. It's been a while. You buy a lot of chips. You like turn on auto gamble, and then like there's like a game within a game where you're like a slime going on a quest or something, and then that unlocks an additional game within a game. I don't know, man. It's really wild.
But Jeff, you're forgetting that
slime.
the different slot machines in the casino have emotions and feelings, and you need to check in with the bunnies every day to see which slot machine you should
But
play.
you can't always trust the bunnies. I don't really remember what the deal is with that, but I think sometimes you can't trust them, right?
You know what? Sure.
There's an implication, because different people have different feelings about different machines, and I feel like there's an implication that some of them are not to be trusted.
Yeah. It's just... wow. Anyway.
All right, that'll do it. Thanks for listening. It was good to talk with you guys again in 2020, and we'll be back in probably a month.
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
See
Bye,
ya.
guys.
Bye.